Hi, I'm Tristan. I'm the designer and owner of Resident, and this video is going to cover how to build the practice whale that comes in each kit. When you got your kit, you received the instruction card that I probably sent you to this video, a tongue depressor, bottle glue, an instruction or practice piece, and then all the pieces that make up your sculpture. We're going to put these aside. That's for one of the giraffes there. And we're going to use the tongue depressor, the glue, and the practice piece to build the practice whale. The first thing we're going to do is fold. With each of these pieces and all the pieces within each of the kits, every edge that's going to be folded is marked. You see there's dashed lines and there's dotted lines. The dotted lines are really easy. They're already all scored in advance, so you're just going to fold away from yourself. All you're doing is just folding once. You'll see that when I'm doing this, I'm actually a lot of the times using my nail to make that a really nice crisp edge. But with all these dotted lines, I'm just folding once away from me. They're going to stay that way. With all the dashed lines, you're going to fold starting out the exact same way, away from yourself, but that dashed line means you're going to fold it a second time. So we're going to flip it over and then fold it back towards us. So dotted lines will stay in that initial position. Those dashed lines, since we're folding it back, will form a nice edge going the opposite way on our piece. And that's the same for all of these edges. You don't have to worry about how far to fold those back because it will actually, later on when we glue it, it'll create the angle for us. A lot of the times when I'm folding these, I will use the edge of a table, and that's really helpful for me to use that corner to be able to push against. So here, I'm folding here, I'm using the table to push against. Right, that edge is right where that crease is. And then I'm doing the same thing pushing back. I'm using the back of my nail. You can also use a tongue depressor to make sure that we get a really nice crisp edge. Now is a great time to pause the video and finish folding up all of the scored edges because we're going to be moving on to gluing. So to start gluing, we're going to grab our glue bottle, take off our cap, and grab a small push pin or a needle that is sitting around your house. And instead of cutting off the top, we're actually going to use that needle or push pin to just make a really small hole on the top of our glue bottle. And that small hole will allow us to use only the amount of glue that we want. This is Alene's Quick Dry Tacky Glue. It's a silicone-based glue, so it's not going to come off with water. Instead, if you get any on your fingers, just rubbing it off, rubbing your finger against your palm, and then once you have the little flakes on your finger, if you just rub them against your shirt or your pants or a cloth that you have with you, that'll take it off. We don't want water because we don't want dampness on our paper, and water also will not take it off because it's silicone-based. When you're not using the glue, make sure to keep that cap on because whatever residual glue that's on there will dry. With the cap, that won't happen as quickly. With all of the edges, there is an edge and then there's a tab. You can see 9 and 9. Tab 9 is going to glue to side 9. In this case, this tab is going to fold. We're going to add a little bit of glue on the inside here, and then that will come over and will create the tail of our whale. When you're gluing the tab on, what I always think about is that tab is going to glue to the side with the numbers on it. It's not gluing, again, 9 and 9, it's not gluing on the outside here because we don't want to see that tab when we finish the sculpture. We want that tab to be nice and tucked away on the inside so it's not seen. So I always think tab, glue to numbers. Another example is down here with 2 and 2. We don't want that tab to glue on the outside, we want that to be gluing on the inside. Outside being the finished side of our sculpture, inside being that part that has all of the numbers and writing and printing on it. So we're going to start with side 9 down here. With our glue, we do not need very much at all. Very, very little. And we're going to put that little bit just in the middle of the tab. We want from one side the whole way across the tab an even amount, small amount of glue. We're going to fold that side over, line up those edges, and then this is a quick drying glue, so it's going to get tacky. It's going to hold those pieces together really quickly. It will stay liquid long enough that you can move stuff around, but once you get it set in place, just apply a little bit of pressure. Usually you can count to about 5, and it will be holding it enough so that we can work on making sure that it's a nice, even glue along the whole thing. Let's grab our tongue depressor. You can use that tongue depressor on the inside here to push against. The tongue depressor is going to help you even out the pressure so that you get a totally flat edge versus an edge that is warped because it wasn't evenly glued down. We want all that glue to evenly touch on both sides, and the tongue depressor will help us to do that. In this case, the tongue depressor is on the inside. We can also use the tongue depressor on the outside and push it against the tab with our fingers on the inside. That's also a great way to use this. We're going to do our next one, which is number 10 over here. 10, this tab 10 is going to glue on the inside. If you're ever unsure about where the tab should glue, do it without glue first, look at it and think about it and go, oh yes, that's on the inside, or nope, that's going to show up. We're going to add a little bit of glue to the two sides that are going together, that tab and then the side, number 10. Line up our edges. See how long you can keep moving around if you need to, but I got it just right. I'm applying some pressure, and it will not take long at all for it to hold. In this case, this one's kind of hard to get inside, so actually using our tongue depressor in here is a really good idea. Okay, so we got those. Let's move down here. We got 2 and 2 down here that we're going to glue together. Tab 2 will glue to side 2. Again, that tab is gluing to the numbers. When you're gluing, you're going to have to move things around a lot. Try to move things so that you can get the optimal spot for putting pressure on to hold those in place. You see, it does not take long at all for that to become tacky, to hold it in place. I'm using the tongue depressor to evenly glue that whole edge and give it some nice pressure all along there, and we get a nice edge. Up here, let's glue 1 and 1 together. You see every single time I'm putting glue right in the middle of the tab. If we put too much glue on, or if our glue is up too high, it will be really easy for that glue to spurt out along that edge. And no matter what, this glue will show up. It does dry clear, and it is hardly noticeable at all on the white, but it is really noticeable on the black, on the blue, on any darker color. No glue is going to be perfectly clear. This one gets pretty dang close, but even on the white, if you have a really keen eye, you can notice it a little bit. So we want to prevent that glue from coming out, but we want to put enough in so that it is gluing and holding things together for us. It does not take much at all. If you put the glue too low down on the tab, it's not going to be able to hold those edges together up high, and you'll get some weird gaps because of how low down it is. So the middle of the tab is the perfect spot to be gluing these. Every single time I'm gluing my tab to an edge, I am pulling and pushing and prodding those edges so they line up just right, and that the tips of where they all come together also line up. So it's not enough just to get the edges together. If they're slipping in the wrong direction, you'll have to use your pull those edges so they do line up right here. So that point is right in the middle of those folds. We're going to move up here, and on the inside here we're gluing 8 to 8. Again, glue right along the middle, lining our edges up evenly. If your gluing becomes off, if those tabs start to come off, it has a rippling effect of all the further ones that all on the pieces that you'll glue in the future. They'll be affected by that. So take your time, go slow, make sure all of your tabs and edges come together really nice and cleanly, because it makes a huge difference. On the inside here, I'm gluing tab number 5 to edge number 5, and we're getting really close to finishing this one up. When you're gluing on the sculpture, you're going to start with piece number 1, and it's going to glue to tabs on piece number 2. Each successive piece will have some overlaps with the sculpture that you're building. So piece number 1 and 2 will have some tabs that overlap with 3, some tabs that will overlap with 4, and so on and so on. I have ordered the pieces in a way so that it is the easiest possible way to construct them. And it's also going to help you so you don't get in any tough situations of trying to get into too narrow crannies or try to stick your arm in and reach something that's really far away. So we're continuing to glue all the pieces together on our wheel here. Does not take long for those edges to get tacky. I move my fingers along them every single time, making sure that the glue gets even pressure all along that tab so we get a good edge. Just a couple to go here on the whale. Sometimes it can be really easy to get some glue on something else besides that tab. Just go slow, use a little bit of glue, be careful. If you do happen to get any glue in a place that you don't want it, just take it off of your fingers as quickly as possible. That's the best you can do. I will sometimes try to use a really sharp X-Acto blade and try to scrape it off, but usually that does not work very well. So my best suggestion is just take your time with your glue. Okay, coming up on the very last edge here. And then we'll be done building our whale. And that's the very last one. I left a hole in here so that we could get our hands inside for the whale. I'm just going to finish up pushing this joint together here. And there's our whale. Now we've finished building our whale. You've learned how to follow all the instructions on each of the pieces, how to fold and to glue them all together, and now you can build your sculpture. Have fun! One thing before you go is when you get to your very final piece, the back piece, each of these back pieces has an opening so that you can glue along these edges, and then your whole sculpture will hang on that opening. So use a push pin at the very end. Just a push pin will be more than enough to hang your sculpture on, and that's all it takes. You can also use a small nail if you want to, or one of the command strips. But that's what that opening is for, not only for you to be able to get in and to glue those last edges on your sculpture, but also to hang it on. Have fun building!